Hello, Internet friend. Today on Value Side, understanding the cost of the Iran war. I'm David Ravel. Well, for many years, my job was to prepare monthly financial statements for the various investment firms I worked for. It's the same task that almost all businesses must perform, although the SEC adds some additional schedules, especially for brokers. I began with a small regional brokerage house, so the financial statements were simple and easy to prepare. The bookkeeper and I would sit down at the end of the month, sort through the various receipts and statements, determine which category each fit in, and write our monthly report. It's a tedious job at best, but it's also incredibly illuminating, revealing where the firm spends its money and where it receives its income. It can also reveal missing items and expenses that are not accounted for, sometimes an oversight, sometimes potential excess, or even fraud. Today, let's you and I begin preparing a preliminary financial statement for the Iran conflict. Of course, we don't have all the figures. Many of the expenses have not yet been released by the U.S. government, but we can at least see the categories and get an order of magnitude picture of our nation's financial liability. Now, the first authoritative statement of the war's cost came from James Hurst, Pentagon Comptroller. Mr. Hurst estimated that operational costs at $29 billion, an increase of $4 billion from his prior estimate. Although the press was all a Twitter over this latest statement, because it was an increase over the prior one after all, it's perfectly understandable that operational costs in an ongoing operations will rise. What we need to focus on here is that this was an estimation of operational costs, nothing more. This week we received a second authoritative report on capital costs from the Congressional Research Service. The report was entitled U.S. Aircraft Combat Losses in Operation Epic Fury. Again, this is not the cost or expense of the entire conflict. It's only a list of the planes and other equipment that have been lost. Regrettably, the report does not provide a cost estimate for the planes and equipment, and there's likely a reason for this omission. When accounting for capital losses, an enterprise must determine whether to use the purchase price or the replacement cost. Although this is primarily for tax accounting and not applicable here, it highlights a key point. Should we account for the real financial impact of restoring the military to its readiness before the Iran conflict began? I think we should. Take, for instance, the AWACS aircraft destroyed at Prince Sultan Air Base on March 27, 28. This aircraft was at least 50 years old and is no longer being produced. Producing a replacement aircraft today would be a significantly more expensive than its original purchase price. As we indicated, this report does not provide a comprehensive cost for the loss of planes. Here we'll use another tactic that we sometimes had to use in preparing our preliminary reports, a report before all the receipts and statements came in. It's something that I had to do in providing monthly financial reports, but it might be foreign to companies that only provide their annual reports. When we did not have the final data, we provided our best estimate, a plug number, if you will. We know this number will need revision once the final data comes in, but for now, our best estimate will give us a good overview of our current condition. Now, the best estimate of the plane loss currently stands at $2.4 billion. Obviously, this number is woefully inadequate, but at least it presents an open category. It lets us know that plane loss will be in our financial statement. We'll now use this category as we build that financial statement for the war. Plane losses will fall under the overall category of capital losses, which will ultimately need to include the loss of U.S. bases and equipment, especially radar, destroyed in the Gulf states. We know, for instance, that the AN/FPS 132 early warning radar in Qatar cost at least $1.1 billion to make, and it was destroyed, and that will have to be added to our financial statement. Also, the Navy's Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain was significantly damaged, with current estimates of $200 million in damaged equipment and facilities. These reports will also have opened a new category of capital expense, base and equipment loss. So, just by recording official data as it's provided and organizing it in the way any accountant or bookkeeper would, we're starting to get a realistic financial view of the war, including the anticipation of expenses yet to be reported. Now, James Hurst over at the Pentagon told us that operational expenses stand at $29 billion. No official report has been issued on any capital loss, but we do know 2 points of the schedule. Plane loss, currently estimated at $2.4 billion, and base loss estimated at least $1.3 billion. Altogether, this puts our current very conservative estimate of the Iran conflict at nearly $33 billion, with the understanding that major expenses or losses have yet to be reported. Put more bluntly, the $33 billion figure for the Iran conflict is the lowest level imaginable. Expect it to rise substantially as the White House and the Pentagon release additional reports. It puts the website Iran Cost Ticker's current reading of $88 billion in context. Although we cannot yet see that level of U.S. spending on the war, we can see a trajectory that will indeed take us there. On the other hand, for those news organizations that have conflated James Hurst's current operational expenses at $29 billion with the overall expenditure for the war, it's apparent that that number is woefully understated. Overall, the Iran war is demonstrating how the public debate is failing the American public. Numbers are thrown around with little effort to put them in their proper context. Much of this is due to the administration's failure to provide timely and relevant accounting data. The American citizens have a right to know just how much they're spending on this conflict and to know just how much it will cost to restore our military to the level of competency it had before February 28. Now, there can be little doubt that our armed forces have suffered significant financial losses during the conflict, and that we have only a very limited view of just how much. And that's today's Value Side. For all of our references and podcasts, visit valueside.com. I'm David Ravel. ValueSide is independently written and researched. The views expressed are strictly my own.